through the border now into Tanzania, the friendliest, fastest and politest border post we've covered so far in Africa. First problem we've had in Tanzania, we've been on beautiful tar roads, then suddenly just went on to a good road, but quite a very stony gravel road, and before we could even have time to stop, it's completely ripped this one tire. So here we are again, but we're getting pretty quick at this, I hope. The skies here are so beautiful, reflecting in the water. Lake Katavi. Hippo are grunting like crazy in the background. We're arriving in the dark. You have no idea where you're camping. You just find a place where you can stop and where the caravan is sort of level. And then you wake up in the morning, and find the surprise of where you are.
I'm standing under an acacia albida on the shores of Lake Katavi with elephant in the background, hippo everywhere and birds everywhere. If you could zoom in, which we can't easily, there are birds, there's open bills, and there's a whole lot of little ibises. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Whenever the pelicans move on the lake, they move in a whole mass like that. You see, look at them all coming in. We've decided the new group name for that should be a flotilla of pelicans. Look at all the movement there. It's a lovely spot on the river where we've got some pelicans, open bills, yellow-billed storks, and ibises.
So as we're driving along the shores of this beautiful Lake Katavi, there's the Fassa waterbuck with past elephants, and in the distance we can see buffalo. So very beautiful and very productive actually.
Definitely predators.
And definitely predators, because I've seen a lot of skulls and a lot of bones.
This is such a beautiful tree. Look at it, it's magnificent. We're leaving Katavi, our aptly named 3-tree campsite, early in the morning. You've given us a couple of beautiful nights and some beautiful game drives. Spiritual tree of Katavi, and Katavi has taken its name from the spirit that they believe lived here, called Katavi, who would grant them special fortunes and protection. That we're seeing a lot of in Zambia are these little tuk-tuks. They're everywhere. Look, this looks like a computer game of tuk-tuks.
We're on the way to Kigoma when my brakes started binding, so we took off the wheel and the brake drum. But we didn't know how to resolve the problem. It was leaking, and to get the whole brake system off. So we've got a Tanzanian mechanic here who's come and shown me how to do the job.
He's a fundi.
He's a fundi. He's a fundi. Show me how.
Hey, yes, cool. Here we are. We thought it was just the brake pads, or the brakes that were binding. Now I realized the whole bearing has gone on this wheel. We have spare bearings for the caravan, but no bearings for the motor car. Absolutely can't stay where we are. It's too dangerous. You'll see this is the trucks that are coming past us. All night long. So another very helpful man stopped, and we looked at it, and the trouble is we've only just realized today's Saturday, which means we can't get anything we can't get bearings until Monday. So we're about 40 k's from Kigoma, and we're going to limp through at about, I don't know, 15-20 k's. We are driving through Kigoma, which is one of the largest towns in Tanzania. It's the capital of Western Tanzania, and as you can tell, it is nighttime because we've broken a bearing on the car wheel, and we've just limped into town, and there are no street lights and no rules of the road at all. There are thousands of tuk-tuks. Anyway, we're trying our best to find a place where we can camp tonight. Stopped at a petrol station to ask directions. We're almost at the beach, and our bearing and tyre caught fire. We've used up a couple of extinguishers. They're still trying to cool it down at the moment, but we're okay. We're okay. But the whole thing was on fire. This was the fire engine that came to our rescue, and the nicest police officers. This is really lovely policeman helping us, escorting us very slowly to the closest campsite. He's a lovely man, and he's given us the name of a church to go to tomorrow, and knows the pastor, and told us we could catch a little tuk-tuk taxi, and he's given them directions and given me his phone number in case we have any problems.
I'm just sorting out the little slave cylinder. We drove on this once the main bearing had gone, the ball bearing, for 30 k's, and it actually caught fire when we arrived. There was no option. We were either going to spend 2 days, including a Sunday, on the open road.
These gents have been working on the car most of the day today, and this gentleman here, you were there last night when you saw it catch fire, eh? Did you? You saw the tire burning. Somehow God does manage to help us each day make lemonade from lemons. We stayed at this lodge last night and had a beautiful sleep, and now we're going down for breakfast.
We're on the shores of Lake Tanganyika at Kigoma. We're a few kilometers north of Ujiji, which has great historical significance in the exploration story of Africa. Livingstone's discoveries in the south, Lake Ngami, Lake Bangweru, Lake Mweru, Victoria Falls, the Zambezi River, excited the imagination of Europe. And many explorers now wanted to get in and see what was going on in Central Africa. And two army officers, Richard Burton and Charles Hanning Speke, teamed up to come in from Zanzibar, where they kitted out from Bagamoyo all the way to Tabora, and arrived at Ujiji on Lake Tanganyika. And so they're credited with discovering it. But their story is fascinating. They didn't get on well because they had tried to get into Africa earlier on and had got involved in an altercation with the Somalis, and they were nearly killed, but Burton always held it against him. He was the senior man, that Speke had abandoned him in the middle of the fray. So they were an uneasy alliance. They discovered the lake together. The head of the party was Burton, the older man, but they both got very sick and headed back to Tabora. And then Speke recovered quicker and asked if he could travel to the north, which he did. And he went up to and discovered Lake Victoria. And he came back with the news that he discovered the source of the Nile, which made Burton, the leader of the party, very unhappy. His underling had come back with the greatest discovery, and Burton said, well, you couldn't have discovered the source because you haven't circumnavigated the whole of Lake Victoria. This created various animosity, and eventually they went back to the coast, both not very well. And when they got to the coast, the deal was that Speke, who was going earlier because Burton was still sick, Speke wouldn't announce the discovery until both of them were there in London. Speke promised that he wouldn't do that, but when he got there, he went straight to the Royal Geographical Society and announced he had discovered the source of the Nile. He was now famous, and Burton wasn't held in very high esteem. And some years later, the Royal Geographical Society commissioned Speke to go with Grant, a friend of his, to Lake Victoria and actually find the source of the Nile and confirm his theory, which he did. And so source of the Nile is on the north end of Lake Victoria. And then Speke and Grant made their way back overland through to Gondokoro, which is south of Khartoum, and back. And that resulted in several years of altercation and periodicals and newspapers between the two. The day came several years later when there was going to be a public debate between the two, and Speke didn't arrive for it. He had killed himself by accident, so they said, as he climbed over a wall with his loaded gun. A lot of people speculated he'd committed suicide because he didn't want to get in the debate with this more erudite, more flamboyant Burton,